Hello and welcome to the Retail Week. Usually, of course, we look back at a story from the last 7 days, but it's the end of the year, and so a great time to review what have been some of the most significant developments of the past year. What changed retail in 2019? And to discuss that, I'm joined by members of the Retail Week team who will identify some of those pivotal moments and trends.
I think for me, the moment that happened that I thought was most emblematic of sort of shifting power dynamics in retail in terms of the patches that I cover was Boots's series of strategic shifts throughout the year, which sort of was summed up by their big push into securing big name brands throughout the year when they secured Fenty, Rihanna's brand, and opened their massive new flagship in Covent Garden, which had a real focus on wellness and beauty and experience. To me, that felt like a really seismic representation of how the power dynamics in health and beauty retail are shifting away from the high street behemoths and to the sort of scrappy upstart influencer dominated brands, and how actually it's gone from one having to court the other to being completely flipped, and actually the power really being in the hands of the more D2C influencer led celebrity backed social media driven brands. I think secondary to that, but really representative of the same sort of trend, was Coty, a really established massive beauty house, paying over $500 million, $600 million, I believe it was, for Kylie Jenner's Kylie Cosmetics brand. It just felt to me like a real representation of how much the power dynamics in health and beauty are shifting, and how much that is dictating where people want to spend their money, and therefore how high street retailers and all kinds of retailers have to court those brands in order to be relevant in any kind of way.
I think for me it was the CMA's decision to block the Sainsbury's Asda deal for a number of reasons, but firstly from the CMA's perspective it put a massive flag in the ground and said that if you want to do any kind of M&A within retail, you need to have a really compelling and well thought through argument that really leads back to the customer, and I don't think Sainsbury's and Asda did that particularly well. If you look at what the CMA has done since, it's looking in more detail at things like JD and Foot Asylum, it's looking at Amazon and Deliveroo potentially, so it's really set its stall out on that front. But also just look at what it does to Sainsbury's and Asda moving forward. There's a big question at Sainsbury's around their future leadership. A lot of the thinking is that Mike Coop will probably step down fairly soon, potentially in 2020, who knows. And for Asda, Walmart is looking at a potential IPO or sell. So there's going to be an awful lot of shakeout still to come as a direct result of that decision, and that's going to last throughout the next few years at least.
I think the biggest change in retail this year has been the dramatic demise of the department store. I think it's been talked about for some time, but it was really laid bare this year, both with the administration of Debenhams and John Lewis, who's always been a bit of a star of the sector, paying firstly their staff the lowest bonus, I think, since the 1950s, and then in September unveiling their first ever half-year loss. When you add that to House of Fraser's dubious reinvention under Mike Ashley, which I think we can say that some stores have ended up looking like jumble sales, you've got the mainstream department store sector in disarray. There's some big questions being asked about whether department stores have a future, with online being kind of the ultimate one-stop shop now. Some serious reinvention is needed, which will need to be more than just a nail bar or some experienced desks in store.
So for me, I think something that's really interesting is Nike coming off Amazon. Nike said that they were doing it to elevate the customer experience and also deliver more direct personal experiences with their customers. Nike is Nike, but for smaller brands who really rely on Amazon for sales and marketing, what does it mean for them? And does Nike coming off Amazon signal for bigger brands that Amazon's reign is slipping, and what does this mean for the future of direct consumer?
I think one of the biggest stories of 2019 is the situation at Kingfisher. So Veronique Lowry stepped down in March. She had brought in the One Kingfisher plan. There was a £500 million profit target for 2021. That seems to have disappeared now. They stopped mentioning the £500 million target. Thierry Garnier stepped in to her role in September. There was no mention of One Kingfisher anymore. So the chair, Andy Cosler, has sort of said he has free rein to do what he wants now. So I think next year we're going to see, all eyes will be on Kingfisher. Obviously it's the number one DIY retailer. We're going to see if one Kingfisher stays, whether they break up the business.
Well, I think it's been another year of enormous change, but for me, if I think about it, what sums up the year, I think one company comes to mind, and that's Ocado. And in particular it's Ocado Solutions side, because at the start of the year in the spring they had those two huge announcements with Marks and Spencer and with Coles in Australia, and then just a few weeks ago another massive announcement with Aeon in Japan. And I think for me they're really significant on several levels. Obviously for Ocado itself, it's transformational for the Ocado business and all the years of investment and developing the solutions that they've got. I think it summarises also the way that retailing's going, what Ocado represents, which we're starting to see from other retailers around the world. It's that investment in the new technologies that are going to really drive and automate retail, literally, but all about delivering great customer service. And I think the other key message for me, and it's again something we're picking up talking to retailers all around the world, it's this focus on partnerships. I think it's that realisation with the enormous challenges retailers have and how they're going to get to their end goal of being a transformational business. It's that realisation, whereas before retailers being as competitive as they are, they would want to do everything themselves. You hear major retailers openly saying we can't do it all on our own, and why would we expect to? We heard it from Kroger at the World Retail Congress and others that to get to that end point, you'd have to work together with some of the best people in the world.
I think one of the things that changed retail in 2019 was the rise of sustainability, and there was one big change. We've talked about sustainability for a while. Things like plastics have been on the agenda, becoming ever more a talking point. But what really interested me was that Primark a few months ago actually said that perceptions of sustainability had affected their performance. Now, Primark actually takes its ethical positioning and sustainability really seriously, but they could see, they were hearing that customers' perception wasn't matching the reality, and that was affecting their business. So that says to me, if you're not now actively addressing that sustainability agenda, you really need to start thinking about it, because it's only going to grow in importance and consumers are expecting retailers to take action on their behalf. So that's my choice, but what are yours? Please let us know. You can comment below. In the meantime, have a very happy Christmas and all the best for the new year, and we look forward to seeing you again then.